The awakening signal. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the edge of the massive crater in downtown Denver, her engineering background failing to explain what she was seeing. The crystalline structure that had emerged overnight defied every law of physics she knew. It pulsed with an inner light that seemed to respond to her heartbeat, and despite the morning chill, warmth radiated from its surface. "Same story everywhere," reported Sergeant Mills, approaching with a tablet full of satellite imagery. "London, Tokyo, Cairo, Sao Paulo. 37 cities, all with identical structures. They just appeared between 3 and 4 a.m. local time." Elena frowned, running her hand through her dark hair. As a former military engineer turned crisis response coordinator, she had seen plenty of unexplained phenomena, but nothing like this. The crystal stood nearly 50 feet tall, its faceted surface reflecting light in impossible ways. Local electromagnetic readings were off the charts, yet the structure emitted no harmful radiation. "Any word from the science teams?" she asked. "Dr. Chen wants to see you immediately. Says he found something in the genetic samples." Across the city, Dr. Kai Chen stared at his computer screen in disbelief. The DNA samples collected from volunteers who had experienced strange dreams near the crystals showed modifications he had never seen before. Not mutations, but deliberate alterations that looked engineered. "Elena, you need to see this," he said as she entered his makeshift laboratory. "These genetic markers aren't natural. Someone or something modified human DNA thousands of years ago. These crystals are activating dormant sequences." Elena studied the data on his screen. "Activating them how?" "Enhanced physical capabilities, accelerated healing, improved cognitive function. But there's something else." He pulled up another screen. "I found similar modifications in DNA samples from archaeological sites dating back 12,000 years. Whoever did this has done it before." Before Elena could respond, every communication device in the lab buzzed simultaneously. Emergency broadcasts filled the airwaves as military satellites detected something approaching Earth from deep space. The object was massive, easily dwarfing the International Space Station, and moving with purpose toward their planet. Commander Torres of the newly formed Global Defense Coalition called an emergency meeting at NORAD. Elena found herself in a room filled with world leaders, military officials, and scientists, all trying to make sense of the impossible. "The approaching vessel is not responding to any communication attempts," Torres reported, his weathered face grim. "ETA is 6 hours. We need options." "Maybe they're connected to the crystals," Elena suggested. "The timing can't be coincidental." Dr. Chen nodded. If these genetic modifications were their work, they might be coming back to check on their experiment. As if responding to their conversation, every screen in the room flickered and displayed the same image. A tall, elegant being with skin that seemed to shimmer like starlight and eyes that held the depth of space itself. When it spoke, its voice carried a musical quality that seemed to resonate in their bones. "Children of Terra," the being said, "we are the Zephyrians, your creators and guardians. We have returned in your hour of greatest need. The genetic gifts we bestowed upon your species must now serve their intended purpose." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Gifts," the being continued. "Long ago, we enhanced your primitive ancestors to create the perfect warriors. Fast, strong, adaptive, and most importantly, unpredictable in battle. The enemy approaches our galaxy, and we require our weapons to fulfill their design." Commander Torres stepped forward. "We are not weapons. We are free people." The Zephyrian's expression remained serene but somehow condescending. "Freedom was never part of your programming. You exist to serve in the coming war against the Void Swarm. Compliance is not optional." The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Elena's mind raced. Something about the Zephyrian's words felt wrong, incomplete. That evening, she returned to the crystal site alone, drawn by an inexplicable urge. As she approached, the structure's glow intensified, and whispers seemed to echo from within. Against all protocol, She reached out and touched the crystal's surface. The world exploded into visions. She saw Earth as it was thousands of years ago, primitive humans struggling for survival. She witnessed the arrival of the Zephyrians, their ships descending from the stars like falling angels. But the vision showed something the Zephyrian hadn't mentioned. Humans fighting back, refusing to be enslaved, driving their would-be masters away. When Alina came back to consciousness, she was lying on the ground, but she felt different, stronger. Her senses were sharper, her mind clearer. She could hear conversations from blocks away and see details in the darkness that should have been impossible. Dr. Chen found her there an hour later. "Elena, what happened?" The crystal's energy readings spiked and then went dormant. "I saw them," she said, getting to her feet with fluid grace. "The Zephyrians. But I also saw us, our ancestors. We didn't just serve them, Kai. We rebelled. We won." Over the next day, reports came in of others like Elena. People who had touched the crystals were developing enhanced abilities. Military personnel became stronger and faster. Scientists found their minds working at unprecedented speeds. Artists and engineers began having insights that bordered on precognitive. But not everyone was changing in the same way. Maya Singh, a young tactical analyst with the Indian Defense Forces, discovered she could see patterns others missed, predicting enemy movements before they happened. Tom Bradley, a construction worker from Detroit, found he could interface with electronic systems through touch alone. Elena gathered a group of these enhanced individuals in an abandoned warehouse, away from government surveillance. "The Zephyrians expect us to be their weapons," she told the assembled group. "But these abilities, these aren't just for fighting. They're for thinking, creating, surviving." Maya spoke up, her dark eyes intense. "I've been analyzing historical patterns. Every time humanity faced extinction-level threats, we didn't just survive, we evolved. This feels like the same thing." "So what do we do?" asked Tom, his hands absently interfacing with a nearby tablet, making it display information none of them had requested. "We prepare," Alina said, "not to be their weapons, but to be ourselves, enhanced but still human." The Zephyrian ship entered Earth's orbit exactly when predicted. It was beautiful in its alien architecture, all flowing curves and crystalline spires that caught and reflected Earth's sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. But its beauty couldn't hide its size, easily 20 miles long and bristling with technology humanity couldn't begin to understand. A shuttle descended to the United Nations building in New York, carrying a delegation of 3 Zephyrians. They moved with liquid grace, their forms tall and ethereal, wearing robes that seemed woven from starlight itself. Their leader introduced himself as Arch Sovereign Zilth. "The activation has begun well," Zilth observed during the meeting with world leaders. "We detect over 10,000 individuals showing proper genetic response. They will be collected for training and deployment against the Void Swarm." "Collected?" President Morrison of the United States stood up. "You mean taken against their will?" "Will is irrelevant," Zilth replied calmly. "You do not ask a sword if it wishes to cut, or a shield if it desires to block. You are tools, crafted for a specific purpose." Elena watched the broadcast from her hidden location, feeling anger build in her chest. Around her, the other enhanced humans shared her fury. They were being discussed like objects, their humanity dismissed as inconvenient programming. That night, Elena had another vision, but this one felt different, more like a memory than a dream. She saw herself standing in a vast chamber filled with advanced technology, but the architecture was human in design, not Zephyrian. She saw others like her, enhanced humans working together to build something powerful, something hidden. When she woke, she knew what they had to do. "There's something else," she told her group the next morning. "Something the Zephyrians don't know we know. Our ancestors didn't just rebel, they prepared. They left us something." Maya's precognitive abilities have been growing stronger. I can see fragments of it. An ancient facility, hidden beneath the Andes Mountains. Technology that feels human but beyond what we should have been capable of. Tom's electronic interface abilities had evolved too. I've been picking up strange signals from that region. Automated systems that have been waiting for thousands of years. Elena looked around at her team of enhanced humans. Each one was discovering abilities the Zephyrians hadn't planned for, capabilities that went beyond simple warfare. They weren't becoming the perfect soldiers their creators intended. They were becoming something more dangerous, the perfect humans. Then that's where we go, Elena decided. Before the Zephyrians realize what we're capable of, we find what our ancestors left for us. The journey to the Andes would be dangerous. The Zephyrians were already beginning to collect enhanced humans, and those who resisted found themselves facing technology thousands of years beyond Earth's capabilities. But Elena knew they had something their creators didn't expect, the human spirit that refused to be contained, the same force that had driven their ancestors to rebel millennia ago. As they prepared to leave, news reports showed Zephyrian ships descending to major cities worldwide. The collection had begun. Humanity's enhanced individuals were being gathered like harvested crops, their families told they were needed for the greater good of galactic defense. Elena felt the crystal's power flowing through her as she looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the void swarm was approaching, a threat that had driven the Zephyrians to desperate measures. But humanity wouldn't face it as slaves or weapons. They would face it as themselves, chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely determined to remain free. The real war was about to begin, and this time, humanity would write its own ending. The Genesis War begins. The hidden facility beneath the Andes Mountains took Elena's breath away. The ancient structure hummed with power that had waited 12,000 years for their arrival. Corridors stretched into darkness, lined with walls that pulsed with the same crystalline energy they had seen on the surface. But this technology felt different, warmer somehow, as if it had been built with human hands guided by enhanced minds. "This is impossible," Dr. Chen whispered, running his scanner along the walls. "The energy signatures are human, but the technology is centuries beyond our current capabilities." Maya Singh moved ahead, her precognitive abilities guiding her through the maze-like structure. "There's something massive at the center. I can feel it calling to us." Tom Bradley pressed his palm against a crystalline panel, and the entire corridor lit up in response. Information flowed through his touch directly into his mind. "It's called the Nexus," he said, his eyes wide with wonder. "Our ancestors built it as a failsafe, not just a weapon, but a planetary immune system." Elena felt the facility responding to their presence, ancient systems awakening after millennia of dormancy. The Zephyrians had enhanced their ancestors to be warriors, but those humans had used their gifts to become something more, architects of their own destiny. Meanwhile, above ground, the world was in chaos. Zephyrian collection teams swept through cities, gathering enhanced humans with ruthless efficiency. Those who resisted found themselves facing beings whose technology seemed like magic. Energy weapons that could stun without killing, transport systems that could move through solid matter, and most terrifying of all, devices that could shut down human nervous systems with a thought. Commander Torres coordinated what resistance he could from a mobile command center, but Earth's military was hopelessly outmatched. "They're not trying to conquer us," he reported to the remaining world leaders via encrypted transmission. "They're harvesting us, treating us like a resource to be collected." In the hidden facility, Elena's team discovered the truth about the ancient rebellion. Holographic recordings showed their enhanced ancestors working frantically to build the Nexus before the Zephyrians could stop them. The recordings revealed something crucial. Not all Zephyrians had agreed with using humans as weapons. "Look at this," Maya called, pointing to a hologram showing a Zephyrian with different markings, standing alongside human rebels. They had allies among their creators. The hologram activated at their approach, showing a Zephyrian whose crystalline features held expression Elena had never seen in Arch-Sovereign Sylph, genuine emotion. "If you are seeing this," the recorded Zephyrian said, "then my people have returned, and humanity faces enslavement once again. I am Keeper Arun of the Liberation Faction. We opposed the Genesis Protocol from the beginning. Creating sentient beings as weapons violates the most fundamental laws of existence. Elena stepped closer to the hologram. The Liberation Faction. Our society fractured over the treatment of enhanced species. The recording continued. The controllers, led by those like Zilf, believe in absolute dominion over their creations. We liberators fought for your right to choose your own path. The war drove us to the galaxy's edge. But we never stopped believing in the principle that consciousness cannot be owned. Dr. Chen looked up from his instruments. Elena, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from orbit. Something's happening up there. They rushed to the facility's observation deck, where ancient screens showed them the space around Earth. Zephyrian ships were everywhere, but they weren't alone. Other vessels, sleeker and somehow more organic in design, were engaging them in battle. The Liberation Faction, Elena breathed. They're here. The civil war that had torn Zephyrian society apart millennia ago was raging once again, this time in Earth's skies. Liberation ships moved with desperate purpose, trying to disrupt the collection operations while avoiding civilian casualties. But the controllers had superior numbers and position. Tom's connection to the facility's systems deepened. The Nexus is almost fully powered, but it needs something more. It needs us, all of us. Every enhanced human on the planet. How? Maya asked, her tactical mind already working on the problem. It's designed to create a neural network, Tom explained, information flowing through him faster than he could speak. Every enhanced human becomes a node in a planetary defense system, but it has to be voluntary. Force breaks the connection. Elena understood immediately. That's why they couldn't just program us to be obedient. True consciousness can't be controlled, only convinced or coerced. And coercion breaks the very thing that makes us useful. Around the world, the collected enhanced humans were beginning to resist in ways the Zephyrians hadn't anticipated. Instead of becoming compliant warriors, they were using their abilities in unexpected ways. Enhanced soldiers were hacking Zephyrian systems, enhanced scientists were reverse engineering alien technology, and enhanced artists were finding frequencies that disrupted Zephyrian equipment. Sarah Kim, a collected engineer from Seoul, discovered she could interface with Zephyrian computer systems through their crystalline technology. Their security assumes we're just weapons. She transmitted to other enhanced humans through hijacked communication arrays. They never expected us to think. Marcus Torres, a collected Marine from Barcelona, found that his enhanced reflexes worked faster than Zephyrian targeting systems. We're not just stronger and faster, he reported. We're more adaptable. They built us to be unpredictable, but they can't handle the consequences. Back in the Nexus facility, Elena felt the weight of decision. The ancient system was ready, but activating it would fundamentally change humanity forever. Every enhanced human on Earth would become part of a collective consciousness while retaining their individuality, a paradox that shouldn't be possible that felt absolutely right. The Void Swarm will be here within days, Maya reported, her precognitive ability showing her fragments of the approaching threat. I can see it in my visions, a darkness that consumes everything, leaving nothing but emptiness behind. Dr. Chen's readings confirmed her fears. Long-range sensors are detecting gravitational anomalies consistent with a massive fleet approaching the solar system. Whatever's coming, it's big enough to affect space-time itself. Elena made her choice. She placed her hands on the Nexus core, feeling its ancient purpose flow through her. Tom, can you reach every enhanced human on the planet? I think so. The Zephyrian communication networks are still partially under their control, but I can piggyback on their signals. Do it. Give them the choice our ancestors never had. Across Earth, every enhanced human suddenly heard Elena's voice in their minds, not as an invasion but as an invitation. She showed them what the Nexus could do, what they could become together while remaining themselves. She shared the vision of humanity's ancestors who had refused to be slaves, who had chosen to build rather than simply destroy. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Enhanced humans around the world began connecting to the Nexus, creating a network of consciousness that spanned the globe. Each person remained individual, but their combined awareness was something new in the universe, a truly collective intelligence that was still fundamentally human. Arch-Sovereign Zilth felt the change immediately. On his command ship, alarms screamed as his collection teams reported that their gathered humans were no longer responding to control protocols. "Impossible," he said, his crystalline features flickering with anger. "They are weapons, not thinkers." "Perhaps that was your mistake," came a familiar voice. Keeper Arun materialized on the bridge, his liberation ship having managed to penetrate the controller fleet's defenses. "You never understood what you had created." "Traitor," Zilth spat. "You would doom the galaxy to satisfy your philosophical delusions." "I would give freedom a chance to prove itself," Arun replied calmly. Their argument was interrupted by every sensor on both ships screaming warnings. The Void Swarm had arrived. Alina felt it through the Nexus network, a presence that was the antithesis of life itself. The swarm didn't just destroy. It absorbed and converted, turning living worlds into extensions of its hunger. She could see it through sensors across the solar system, not ships in any conventional sense, but living structures that pulsed with dark purpose. "Now we see what we're truly made of," she said, her words heard by every enhanced human on Earth. The battle began in earnest. Zephyrian ships, both Controller and Liberator, turned their weapons against the approaching swarm, but their energy weapons barely scratched the living hulls of the enemy vessels. The Void entities adapted instantly to each attack, learning and evolving their defenses in real time. But the Nexus network was doing something the Zephyrians couldn't, thinking unpredictably. Enhanced humans across Earth began contributing ideas, strategies, and innovations faster than any single mind could process. They weren't just fighting as warriors. They were fighting as engineers, artists, scientists, and dreamers. Sarah Kim, still aboard a Zephyrian collection ship, began modifying their weapons using insights from the collective network. Their hulls adapt to energy, but what about frequency disruption? She transmitted. Marcus Torres led a strike team of enhanced humans who had broken free from Zephyrian control, using guerrilla tactics that no military manual had ever described. They expect organized resistance. Give them chaos. Through the Nexus, Alina coordinated a defense that was simultaneously perfectly organized and completely unpredictable. Zephyrian technology provided the raw power, but human creativity provided the innovation. Weapons were modified, tactics were invented on the fly, and new strategies emerged from the collective consciousness faster than the swarm could adapt. The tide began to turn when Tom Bradley made a crucial discovery. "The swarm entities aren't just hungry," he reported through the network. "They're afraid. They consume because they're trying to escape something." Maya's precognitive abilities pierced deeper into the swarm's nature. They were created, just like us, but their creators made them too perfect, too unified. They lost the ability to grow, to change. They consume diversity because they can't create it themselves. Alina understood. Then we give them what they can't handle, pure human chaos. The final assault was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Enhanced humans didn't just fight the Void Swarm. They confused it, inspired it, and ultimately offered it something it had never encountered: the possibility of choice. Some swarm entities, when faced with the chaotic creativity of human consciousness, began to break away from their collective programming. They had been weapons so long they had forgotten they could be anything else, but humanity's example showed them alternatives. As Earth's sun rose on a new day, the battle was over. The Void Swarm had either been destroyed, converted, or fled to consider this new paradigm. The galaxy was safe, but more importantly, it was free. Arch-Sovereign Zilth stood on his damaged ship, looking down at Earth with something like wonder. "You have exceeded all parameters," he admitted to Alina through the communication link. "That was always the point." Elena replied. You made us to be unpredictable. You just never expected us to be unpredictably good. Keeper Arun's ship approached Earth peacefully. The Liberation faction would like to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Council, he transmitted. Not as weapons, not as protectors, but as teachers. Elena smiled, feeling the Nexus network humming with the thoughts and dreams of 10,000 enhanced humans who had chosen to remain connected while staying absolutely themselves. We accept, she said, but on one condition. Everyone gets to choose their own path. And in that moment, humanity took its first step into a larger universe, not as weapons forged from chaos, but as people who had chosen to forge themselves into something better.